Good morning and welcome back to school. Today we are going to do a little bit of review as well as move a little bit forward with our skills with Onshape. So today we are going to work on a box that I'm calling the assembly box. In the end it's going to end up looking like this, and hopefully you will be able to gain the skills needed to make this a successful design. So first things first, you need to log into Onshape. So we always access Onshape from the same place, myips.onshape.com. And if you have not logged into Onshape before, then you access Onshape by logging in with your student ID at students.myips.org. Make sure that you use an S behind students. And if you've never logged in before, then you can access your account by clicking on Forget Password. You can type in your email address, and you can access your email through Clever in order to make sure that you have access. If you don't, please send me an email or talk to me during class, and I'm happy to fix this for you. Alright, so let me log in again. Alright, so once you're in Onshape, we are going to create your document. Click Create in the top left corner and select Document. And just like we have in this class before, we are going to name this document using the conventions that we've established. So for this video, I will be using the class section of 1A, but if you're in second period, you would put 2A, your last name, your first name, today's date, which for this video will be January 4th, 2021, and then the description of the assignment, which for this will be assembly box. And that will open your open your model. And we are going to create this on the top view. So click on Sketch, and I'm going to select the top view. And then I'm going to click top on my view cube over here. And then I'm going to use the center point rectangle to center my box on the origin. And I'm just going to place it there. And I'm going to use the dimension tool to give it a width of 4 inches and a depth of 3 inches. Then I'm going to close the sketch menu and click Extrude to make this a 3D shape. We're going to give this a depth of 3 inches, and then I'll click Check on the Extrude, and that is the main body of our box. Now obviously boxes are hollow in the middle, so I'm going to use the Shell tool up here in the menu to hollow out the middle of the box. We're going to make the thickness of this box 1/8 of an inch, just to give it a little bit of strength. Alright, so now we have a box, but we need to put a lid on it. Now, last semester I made you open a new Part Studio to do this, but I'm going to show you how you can do it in the same Part Studio. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit on my model, and I'm going to create a new sketch using this top edge of the box. And then I'm going to click on top on the view cube. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the corner rectangle tool to create a rectangle that is the same dimensions as the top of the box. And then I'm going to finish the sketch. And the trick here is that I'm going to use the extrude tool to extrude out the entire top of the box, but I'm going to click on New to make a new part in the Part Studio. I'm going to change the depth here to 1/8 of an inch and click on the checkbox. So there's the top of my box. Now the benefit to this is that I can deal with these separately but in the same studio. So if I want to, I can hide a part and only work on one at a time. Now I am actually going to rename these by Alt-click and click on Rename. So the part 1, we're going to call that the box body. And part 2, we're going to name that the box lid. So that way we know which is which. Now I'm going to click on the eyeball here to hide the box body. And then I'm going to look at the bottom side of my lid and create a sketch on the bottom. And I'm going to use the offset tool here to create an inside edge that is 1/8 of an inch from the outer edge. Now you could also just do this by using the corner rectangle tool, placing this here, and then making it so that it's 1/8 of an inch from each of the edges here. Except that one wants to be finicky. Let's move this guy in here. Try that again. Center point rectangle might actually be better. Let's just do that. So I'm just backing up and removing that shape, and instead of using the corner rectangle, I'm going to use the center point rectangle and just click it into place. And the benefit is there that each of these is the same distance from the center, so when I use the dimension tool to put this 1/8 of an inch off, it does it to the bottom as well. So you can use the offset tool to do that, or you can just use the rectangle tool. Either way, now we have this box on the bottom, and we are going to use extrude to extrude that 1/8 of an inch. So now our box has a little lip on the inside, which when we unhide the body, sits on the inside of our box. It's hard to see right now, but we'll be able to see it later. Alright, so using the view cube, I'm just going to turn my model back around so that I'm looking at the front again. You can kind of see this is starting to look like what we want, but we still need to do a few things. So now I'm going to move to the back of the box here, and I'm going to create a new sketch on the back part of my box body. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a place for the hinge to connect to the lid. So I'm going to use a construction line. So click line, then construction. In the center of the, oops, that's not center at all. Let's try that again. Line, construction. Clicking on my origin and then making sure that it's vertical there to make a vertical construction line there to make things a little bit faster. I'm going to use the corner rectangle tool to make a box that's lined up with the top there, and I'm going to make this 3/4 wide and 1/4 inch tall. And then I'm going to use the mirror tool and click on my construction line here, and then click on each part of that box that we just made. So now I have a bigger box. And I'm going to use extrude to extrude these guys out. Let's say 1/4 of an inch. There we go. Alright, so that's starting to look like a hinge, right? It's a little bit blocky, but we'll fix that in a minute. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little hole in this shape, and that's where our hinge is going to go. So I'm going to create a sketch on this box. Alright, I'm going to use some construction lines to make sure that I have this circle centered. So click on line and then construction. And when I move my construction line over this top line here, you should see that little square that pops up. That's going to help to make sure it's perfectly centered on my shape. And then I'm going to put another construction line horizontally that's lined up with the center of the shape there. So now I have a little target that shows me where the dead center of this shape is. And I'm going to put a circle right in the middle there. And we're going to make that 1/8 of an inch in diameter. So I'll close the sketch, click extrude, and we are going to remove that. And I'm going to make sure that it goes all the way through. So now I have a hole that goes all the way through the model. You can see where that hinge is going to go. So now I need to make a way for this box to connect to the lid. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a part here and here that adapts to that hole. So that way we can just shove a little peg through it and connect them together. Alright, so I'm going to create a sketch on this back face of the lid. And I'm going to use a construction line here just so that I know where that edge of this hinge thing is. And we're just going to offset just a little bit from where that is. So I'm going to use a corner rectangle here and make this shape. I'm going to use the dimension tool to offset this by 0.05 inches, just so that there's a little bit of a gap. And then we're going to make this piece here, let's go with 3/8 of an inch. So that's one side of the hinge, and now I need to make it so that it happens on the other side. So instead of making it again, I'm just going to use the construction line, put it in the middle of my shape here, do the same trick I just did a second ago with the mirror tool. So I'm going to click on that line, then I'm going to click on each of the 4 sides of that box to pop it over there. So now we have these 2 parts of our hinge, and we're going to extrude them out. 1/4 of an inch. Looks good. Alright, so we're getting there. We're almost done. So now I need to make it so that this comes down and connects with where that hole is. So I'm going to make another sketch on this face. Remember, you can press the N key to snap your view like I just did. Alright, now here's where we're going to do things a little bit different as well. I want to offset from this bottom edge. So I'm going to use a construction line to make that line appear here. So that's where that edge is. And I'm going to use a corner rectangle so that it's got the same width, but the depth, we're going to change the depth from here to here to 0.2. Just so that way when we swing the hinge it doesn't get whacked on the back of the box there. Whoops, I forgot. We need to mirror this over to the other side. So I'm going to make a construction line again on the center of the model. And then we're going to use the mirror tool. Click on the mirror line. Click, 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 click to put that on the other side. Then we'll use the extrude tool to extrude that out. It should be 1/4 of an inch, I believe. Let's see. Yep. Alright, so we're almost there. But you'll notice that we need that hole. So we're going to do 2 tricks here. So first, I'm going to click Sketch, and then this face back here. Press the N key to snap my view. Now I'm just going to put a circle here. It doesn't matter where it is. For the moment, I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch in thickness. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a constraint to make it so that circle is at the exact same point as where that one is. So we're going to use the concentric tool. So click that, and if you need to, you can search for it up in the search bar there. So I'm going to click on this circle here and make it so that this circle is concentric with it. You can see that it just snapped over to where it needs to be. And then we're going to finish the sketch. And then just like we did before, we're going to click extrude and remove. We're going to change that to through all, and it should apply it to the other side as well. So now we've got the hole that's going to connect our two pieces. It's identical on both sides. Alright, one last thing. So we're going to click sketch here, and we're going to put the exact same circle that we just put on again. Now, when you're putting the circle here, you should see this little highlight pop up, and it's trying to apply a concentric constraint, which is exactly what we want to do. So we're going to make it a concentric constraint, but instead of putting it to 1/8 of an inch, we're going to set it to 0.124, just slightly under what it should be, so that way there's just a little bit of give between our parts. Now we're going to extrude that circle that we just made, and now we're going to click on New. But we want it to go the other direction, and we want it to go a total distance of 2.35. Should be flush with the other side. It looks like 2.35 is going to do it. Yeah. And now we've got a different part that you can see here, part number 3, which is that hinge that we just extruded. And we are going to rename that to hinge insert. And that's going to be the piece that we probably use a mallet to get in to hold our lid onto the main body of our box. Alright, one last thing we need to do, which is to make this look a little bit nicer. So we're going to use the Fillet Tool to round the edges of our box. Now be careful that we don't fillet this top edge where it meets the lid, because we don't want our box to have filleted edges where it closes. That will interfere with its ability to close tightly. So I'm just making sure that I get all the parts of my box. And we're going to set the radius to 0.1. And then we're going to do the same thing to the lid. So click on Fillet. And I'm going to do these outwards edges first, because I always forget to round those. So I'm just going around and I'm rounding those corners there. Now I can go around and do the same thing to select the other edges. You'll notice it's getting a little irritated with me because it thinks that the edges are too. So we're going to change the radius there to 0.1, and now it's less angry about it. I'm also going to round the edges on the top here as well as underneath, and that's going to help it so that when this thing rotates, there's less interference with the box body itself. So there you have it. That is our box with a hinge and a lid. And we will be working on this a little bit more through the rest of the week, as well as doing some modifications to make it work better. If you have any questions about today's assignment, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll see you guys later.